Hi, everybody. This is Patty Sliney, Handy Quilter and National Educator, and I thought I'd pop in here today and do a quick little tutorial about a special edge-to-edge design that I saw some folks talking about over on our social media Facebook groups for Pro Stitcher this last week. And we had several people actually asking about the exact same topic, which is how to use these specialized extended width or multiple row edge-to-edge designs and how to correctly use them. So I thought this would be a great topic for a little video because there are some things that you need to take into consideration when you use these designs so you don't end up accidentally creating a design that's got only one start and stop point. And that would cause Pro Stitcher to stitch left to right, right to left, left to right, merrily along its way until it hits a bar because there are no stop points between the vertical design repeats. So I can show you a little trick on how to use these specialized extended width designs. The one that they were talking about frequently was the design from Urban Elements called Good Vibrations. I don't own that design, but I do own a couple of extended width designs. So let me open one up for you. This one happens to be from Anita Shackelford, and it's called Modern Dewdrops Uneven. And so let me move my crosshairs off so you can take a look at it. And you can see immediately there are a couple of things that make this design look really unique. First off, it's one design element that is an extended width. And in fact, it is 100 inches wide and about 10.5 inches tall. The other thing that's distinctive about this design is it has its start and end point on the left side, which is very different than what we're used to for an edge-to-edge design. We always think of an edge-to-edge design as having to have the start point on the left, stop point on the right, and both those points have to lie on the same horizontal plane, which is true if you want to repeat the design horizontally and have those design repeats connect. This design is not digitized to be repeated horizontally. It's just one big, long, wide design, but you can repeat it vertically. However, let me show you what will happen if you try to do this in probably the way you would normally traditionally repeat a design. So let's go to the Repeat tab. Again, we don't need to repeat it horizontally. It's plenty wide enough. It's fitting my 60-inch wide area without a problem. So I'm going to just repeat it vertically. And we'll get enough repeats to extend beyond my area perimeter. And we would normally say, well, that looks really great. Let's baseline that. And then let's just crop away everything outside the area. And if we do that, watch what happens when we close the edges. And I'll go ahead and close the area. Let's baseline that. Actually, I'll hide the area. And now that's exactly what's happened. We've got a design that's got one start and one stop point, and that's absolutely not what we want. So let me turn my area back on. Let's undo that and undo that. There we go. And undo the crop. All right. So, um, the way that we can kind of trick Pro Stitcher into maintaining these start and stop points, and that's the other thing. When you repeat these design elements vertically, you want to make sure that you are maintaining the end point and the start point with at least a small jump in between. So that's very, very important because that's what's going to tell Pro Stitcher to pause um, at the end if needed. And we're going to set Pro Stitcher to pause at every single stop. I'll show you how to do that. So we want to retain these. And if you had a design where you wanted to adjust the gap, let me undo my baseline here. You just want to make sure that you don't ever adjust the gap on these down. Let me zoom in so that this happens. If I get close enough, it's going to snap these points together and they will connect and go away. And then you're going to have the same problem we had when we cropped and closed the edges. No starts, no ends. So let's change that gap back to 0. Maintain that little tiny jump. And now what we want to do is we want to make sure that these are inside of our area. So I'm going to select this, and with my finger, I'm just going to drag it over. And I'm going to place those start and stop points just so they're a little bit within my area. I can zoom in. And I've made my area wide enough so that my left vertical area edge and the right vertical area edge are out into my batting by about 1.5 inches. So I have a little bit of wiggle room here. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe bring this down a little bit. Get the bubble in there. Not that it really makes a difference. And then I'm going to refresh. And my start and stops are within my area perimeter. So I'm happy with that positioning and placement. I'm going to baseline all my modifications. Now I'm going to go to crop. And I'm going to crop everything outside. And when I close my edges, the only edges that should close will be everything over here and everything at the bottom. There you go. So now let's turn my area off just so you can see. I have maintained my endpoint and stop point. That's critical for these designs. The next thing you need to do is go over to your settings tab, and on your auto jump, you need to turn your auto jumps down to 0. So just touch in there, type 0. That will make Pro Stitcher not auto jump and continue stitching. If I had it set to 3, it would have gotten to the endpoint, tied off, auto jumped, tied back on, and kept stitching. I don't want that to happen. I want Pro Stitcher to pause at every endpoint so I can decide, okay, can I keep stitching? Well, I have a 24-inch machine, so yeah, I probably could do 2 rows of these. And if I was a really smart girl, I would have created my quilting space. That would look something like this. And that came pretty close to 18 inches, which is, I have a 24-inch machine, that'd be about right. So I know that I could stitch 2 of these out before I had to advance. And then if I'm happy with this, then I can baseline. Let's go and turn our area back on. And this design would start stitching here, stitch, come down, stitch, come down, and keep going until it got to that end point. And then it would pause. And then I would just say resume. And it'll tie off into the batting, tie on, and then stitch, 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 stitch until it got right here. And I know, since that's at the bottom of my quilting space, I would have to advance in order to keep stitching, because I could only stitch this part of the next vertical design repeat. I would not be able to stitch anything below the quilting space. So I hope that makes sense to you. The trick is to drag the design over so that the start and stops are inside your area perimeter by a little bit before you use crop outside and close the edges so you can maintain your start and stops. The other thing is you don't want to close the gap so much that your start and end points overlap and connect. You don't want to do that. And the last thing is you need to go to your settings, auto jump, and change them to 0. And then you can stitch these out and they will have pauses for you that you can decide if you need to advance or not. So hope that makes sense. Hope that's helpful for you, for some of you that are doing this. Last thing I want to say, when you are stitching right to left, especially a design like this that has a lot of straight stitching, you do want to slow down. I would loosen up your quilt sandwich. I would make sure you don't have really tight tension, upper tension. You might even have to loosen your bobbin tension a little bit so you have an even lock stitch with looser upper tension. All long arm machines sometimes will object a little bit if you're stitching right to left really fast with really tight tension on a quilt top sandwich that's also tightly tensioned. every long arm machine. Every single long arm machine on the market has a rotary bobbin. And when you are traveling right to left, you're going against the spin of the rotary bobbin. That's why you can sometimes have thread breakage when you're traveling right to left in a straight line. This is not unique to Handy Quilter. Every single long arm has this challenge. So, despite what maybe other brands might say, that is not a true statement. This is a mechanical thing. So, our machines can stitch right to left if you make some adjustments and take care. Slow down. Make sure you have a looser quilt sandwich. Loosen up your upper tension a little bit. Doesn't hurt to pop on a thread net on your cone. That helps the thread pull off the cone more smoothly. So those are all things that can help you stitching right to left successfully. So good luck, have fun, give it a try, and let me know how it all turns out.